Very cool. Let's go ahead and get started. We'll probably have more people coming in here as we go. But one of the things we're going to do, guys, we did this about a month ago. We're going to do this, again, probably like once a month. We'll kind of get into a routine here. It might be the first Tuesday of every month, or we'll figure out a time to do it. But kind of do just a mastermind free for all, no set training, but just something that you guys can throw out questions, throw out things you're dealing with, throw out ideas that you're working on, different things, and we'll mastermind a little bit. We'll just talk, just get a good discussion going amongst all of us and see where all that goes and feed off of that a little bit, whatever. So I think that'd be good to do every so often. We did it a month ago and it went really well. Eric kind of had some things. Do you want to share some stuff, Eric? You had a couple of things here. I know you're gonna have to leave soon.
Yeah, jump off. Yeah, it'd be cool. Thanks.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thanks for letting me share. I appreciate it. I don't come on to the transaction side all that much, but as a reminder for most of you, I've owned a couple of brokerages. I've been around the industry for about 35 years, so I've seen my fair share. Am I in the day-to-days today? No, I'm not in the day-to-days with buyers and sellers, but I'm dealing with hundreds, in essence, thousands of agents who are involved daily in transactions and concerns around it. One of the things that's heavy on my mind, and it's heavy because I forget how much learning there is in real estate, no matter what level you are. I forget, especially today with social media, how we're attacked constantly by advertisers or people that are wanting something from us. And we keep adding and adding to our day and we get less and less done. We keep doing more things, getting less accomplished. Anybody feel like that ever? And so it goes back to a training that I attended years ago by a real estate trainer. I can't even tell you who it was. And they taught me years ago something that I've used in many businesses, in many entrepreneurial opportunities. And it's a priority system, and it's going to be different than you've ever heard before. Timestamp would be, everybody talks about priorities, but as a realtor, it's probably more important that you hear what I'm about to say and you learn how to manage your own expectations. Because at the end of the day, if you can go to bed and feel like you've had a great day, it's probably because of what Tony Robbins says, you made progress. And it's hard to make progress if you don't think you made progress. So let me give you a very simple system, especially if you're relatively new or you're trying to get more business. If you're already on autopilot and you do your job well, congratulations. You may find some value here, but let's talk about this as an A, B, C, D priority. The way it's broken down is real simple, and I'm into simplicity. A is money on the table, a contract that is closing, an offer that is expiring, anything where there's legitimate money on the table and you can't ignore it. Now, you may not have to do anything today, but it has to be on your I priority. You have to be able to wake up in the morning and look at your priorities and go, that's something I don't want to ignore, but I don't have to do anything today. That's an A. What's a B? Anything that will, with one change, with one shift, become money. You're working with buyers, and they're qualified buyers, and they're reasonable buyers, and you need to get them into a house. That is a B priority. Now, for most people, it's an A priority because you got nothing on the money side. But I want you to know it is still a B priority until it moves to A. Don't lose that slot. Curiously enough, there are other things that are B priorities. For example, you get a lead that came into you, okay, and you think it's a hot lead, right? And you want to attack it, but you don't know, are they qualified? Are they this? Are they that? They can't be a B priority if they're not one step from contract. If you recognize they need a pre-qual, that is going to be a C priority. Now you're sitting there going, in your mind, C's are like, oh my God, that's way behind A and it's way behind B. No, think of it as a concert. You're in the third row. You're right there. Right? So I want you to understand A, B, and C and what we're talking about are all hot, hot, and hot. They're just prioritized. If you want to call it, it's not even hot and warm and lukewarm. They're all hot because they will all turn into A's. So an A is something that means money. B is one step from money. And C is something that you know you can get to B and get to A. you have a positive feeling about it. Now, what is D? D is everything else. And so here's the day. If at the end of your day, all you had time with are A, B's, and C's, that's your life. Now, I understand you always have to have those people coming in. There's systems for all that. Okay? But I want everybody to understand, and that's what I wanted, one of the two things I want to teach today is that ABCD philosophy of exactly how you could do this in your life. Jeff, you do more things on a daily basis, more things, different things than almost anybody else I know. I know you have a priority system. And most of the things that Jeff, you and I talk about are probably more B and C priorities, but I know you never lose sight of the A's. So again, most of us don't have any A's right now. Leave that slot open, figure out how you can get a B to an A and a C to a B. Does that make sense? Yes or no?
Yes.
Anybody have any questions about what I just shared? I just talked to a guy.
There's a lot to talk about with that.
Yeah, but you get the idea.
Yeah, for sure.
I just talked to an agent. That agent is really new. He's got a closing in 2 days. He's got 3 buyers he's working with, and he's got about 50 leads a day coming in. And he goes, Eric, I am overloaded. I said, don't be. When's the closing? He says, in 2 days. I says, do you know today it's closing? He says, I knew yesterday it's closing. I said, what do you have to do today to make sure it is? He says, I don't think anything. I said, great, no problem. Those 3 buyers are your B priorities. Are they pre-qualified? Yes. Do they know what they're, for the most part, looking for? Yes. Are they reasonable? Can you get them a house? Yes. Then those are your Bs. Your Cs, he says, I really don't know what my C's are, because again, he's not been in it long enough. And I said, well, you take D's that are your leads and you have a quick conversation with them. And, you break the ice, you get to know them. But the bottom line is you need to find out how long they've been looking, right? What's the price point and area? Are they pre-qualified? And how quickly they want to move. And the minute that you find those 4 things out, immediately you can say, oh, you're not pre-qualified? I'm sending you to a person just to pre-qualify you. You don't necessarily need to use that lender when you buy the house, but let's begin the process because I can't even show you something and put an offer in until that's the case. So those become C's, okay? Because they're 2 steps away and they're separated from all the others that are not in that hunt right now. One of the things I want to leave you with is this. It's okay if the buyer or seller is not ready, it's okay to go to the next person. You don't have to hold on to every one of them. There's a way to hold on to every one of them using KV Core and a system, but I want you to, in your mind, understand where most people run into problems isn't the A priority. It's how do I merge people into B? Because I've got some buyers already. How do I get more people in that space without ruining my time, my commitment of time, by figuring out with all these leads coming in, what do I do? Okay? So that is the first teaching point tonight. Jeff, you said there's lots to talk about. I am going to leave with one other piece and then free for all. He then said to me, I'm driving to go look at the house that's closing today, that's closing on Thursday. There's a couple things that needed to be done. I want to go see it. And I asked him a question. I said, Ken, how long is the drive? He said, 25 minutes. I said, I want you to look in your priority list and ask yourself this. What could I be doing for the 25 minutes that I'm driving to this property? And what could I be doing for the 25 minutes I'm driving back? Most people never think it through that way. That's the second training point today that I wanted to I was going to say bless you all with, but give to you guys is what are you doing with the time that you're not normally scheduling? And the answer is probably nothing in priority. I'll leave you there. Jeff?
That's awesome. Lots to think about with that. I think one of the things that I've seen here, let me hold on. Manual. One of the things I've seen, I think just, 20 years of doing this, it's real easy to be busy in this business and not feel like you're getting anything done at the end of it all, not prioritizing at all. I think maybe doing all the B stuff, like off and on throughout the day, like not organized with it, working on things that just, it's not the money making stuff. It's stuff that needs to get done, but it doesn't need to be done like in prime time. And I think sometimes it's so easy to just fill our schedules with busy work, because we just don't want to do the stuff up here. If you guys go back, and you guys might remember this, if you were on Aaron Kinn's trainings back when we first got this going back in like October, November, the way to take, I got thinking about this, Eric, when you said, some of those leads that come in, taking somebody who says they're we're looking to buy probably in 6 months. But Aaron being able to, let's go out and just pick 2 homes and let's just go look at them. I know you're not going to buy these homes. I know that. I know you're not ready to buy right now. Let's go look at them. I'm going to go with you. So now I can start really getting a feel for what you're wanting in a house, and we can prioritize that. It's going to help me with my search, send you with the better properties. I don't want to waste your time, send you a bunch of stuff you have no interest in. But all of a sudden you take that person who's going to buy in 6 months and they become a B buyer. They become a B priority. Like ready to go now because they get excited when they're out there looking at the homes. All of a sudden now that 6 months becomes 2 months or 1 month because they get out there and they get active and like, oh, okay, wait a minute. Like, wow, like they like that house, whatever. It gets them excited about it. Eric, what are you going to say?
Well, if you think about it, using the priority scale I just talked about,
right,
the person that's looking to buy in September or over the summer, that you have time because you're not fully invested with your other A or Bs. Remember that. You're taking a C priority because they're 2 steps from money. They're willing to buy, but they're not willing to buy now. They could be pre-qualified, but they're not going to buy. So the first step is let's get them to a house so they can get addicted to wanting to buy now. Step 1. Now let's go look seriously at houses to buy. That's 2. So you're moving them. You're taking them what should be from your D priority up to a C because you can move them. And then you're going to go visit houses with them and move them. It's like the other one. It was the reverse. I was talking with my buddy Ken earlier. He said, I've got a listing call that came in yesterday. And the guy said, I'm thinking about selling sometime over the summer. And what do I do with that? And I said, well, over the summer is a C priority. It's a listing, so it's a high priority. But you don't want to lose sight of a listing ever. So what I'm going to say is, just see if you can meet with them just to talk about the listing process. And while there's some key points you can bring up that could push them ahead sooner. So you can move them from a C to a B on the selling side, just like Jeff, you talked about on the buying side.
Yeah. When I think about this too, yesterday, and you guys that are working with buyers. So my wife and I, we work together. She primarily works, a lot of the sales and stuff. I'm really focused primarily on agent attraction myself, but still doing some deals here and there. But my wife, she's so good at this. And sometimes like, it'll make me crazy. It'll be like, I'm like, honey, get off the computer, come out here, relax, whatever. But here's what she's so good at. Like she has a buyer that she's been working with really, who's been like kind of a B buyer. And again, like, wanting to find a house, but it's not like I don't have to find a house today. There's no urgency there at all. But there's very few homes on the market here in Colorado Springs. I think total in our county, like as of yesterday, we have like 189 homes on the market total. It's stupid. It's just, we normally have 3,000. I mean, back, years ago. So it's just, anything comes on the market now, I don't care what price it is, it's just going pretty quick. And so anyway, she's been out with this buyer multiple times. And because she's out there and they built a friendship and she's really working with her, like this is what my wife Lane is so good at. She'll come home here and she was on the computer for 2 hours, like going outside of this lady's search. Because I think I tend to just set up a search and let me know when you find a house. You want to go see it, we'll go see it, Like I just don't want to deal with it. Lane comes home and she's working it and she works it and she works it. And she's going outside of that search just based on all the conversations she's had with this lady. And sure enough, yesterday, my wife found a house that did not come up in this lady's search. But from everything my wife could see, it was like, this matches really everything that this lady wants. You know, she sent her the house, you know, whatever. Hey, you know, what's your schedule this afternoon? This just came on the market. Let's go look at this. They go look. The lady falls in love with it. They're under contract as of last night. You know, so now it's an A. You know, and so but again, going like just doing that above and beyond extra work, which I just don't want to do with that. But that's what it turned into. You know, I mean, she's so good at that. I can't tell you how many times she's found homes for people that did not come up within their parameters, but just putting in that extra time to just sit here and play around with it, you know? Because you know how those searches are. I mean, if it's, you know, if you got the max price at 500,000, if there's one that comes on at $500,001, it's not showing up in their search. And so sometimes just to go a little bit around that search, different things, next thing you know, here comes, you know, that house. And that's what she found yesterday. So anyway, it got me thinking about that as you were talking too. You know, there's so many ways to work those priorities and moving people from those categories up the line from a C to a B to an A. If you work it right, you know, and that's payday. You know, it's closing in 2 weeks. It's like a $700,000 house, you know, cash she's paying. So it's a nice deal, you know? So anyway, what kind of thoughts do you guys have here? Because here's what's going to make this work, guys. Whenever we do this, is this the more people that interact, you know, hey, here's something that I got out of there. Here's something I see or whatever. Let's have some input, some feedback. What do you think? I'll just, you know, Brian, let me just call on you. What go ahead and unmute yourself. Like, what thoughts do you have just with what Eric talked about with, you know, some different things there?
Well, with what Eric talked about, I mean, you get, you know, there's always something that comes up. Well, something comes up to get you sidetracked. I mean, the best thing that's worked for me is just, blocking time, you know, for agent attraction, for instance, and then you do everything else, you know, from your, you know, A, B, C, and D, you know, outside of your time slot. And then if your agent attraction time gets, you know, overrun by, you know, your other things in your priority for your transactions, and you just got to move it around. And sometimes it doesn't always happen for me. I don't get to it. I don't get it done. It seems like one thing piles up on top of another, and you're chasing your tail sometimes. And sometimes I feel like I did a lot today, but I didn't get anything done.
Yeah.
You know, and that's
well, one of the things that we were talking to Shaune last week about a little bit was just like again, like it's real again in this business, it's so easy to do. Like I got really good at this early on. Like I really had to block my schedule out.
Yeah.
And I just held myself to it. I mean, I'm telling you, like, back in the day when I was like, I had a team, I'm getting all these leads coming in, and I'm calling a lot of the leads. I had an inside sales guy, but also I'm calling the leads. I just like I blocked out my afternoons, usually from like 3 to 5. I had it blocked at least 3 days a week, and definitely Saturday mornings. My Saturday mornings were blocked from like 9:30 to about noon. Like nothing got in the way of that. You know, the only time I would, and this is back, you know, we were calling more leads, that kind of stuff. I mean, now it's all different stuff, texting, different things. But Saturday mornings for me, that was the biggest day of my week in terms of getting a hold of people. People are home, you know, especially this time of year. You know, it's wintertime, whatever, it's colder. They're not out doing, you know, family things so much, whatever. So I just blocked it out. I would get a buyer calling me, hey, we're free on Saturday. We want to go look at homes. Great. You know, I can meet you anytime after 12:30. I'm open. My morning right now is booked. You know, how about 12:30? We meet, you know, whatever. Great. They didn't need to know that my booking was with me and my phone. Right. Because here's what most people do is like, okay, great. Next thing you know, you're out showing homes. Well, that was the time for me to, if I could make, you know, 30, 40 calls to leads during that 2.5 hours, I'd set up another half dozen, 8, 9 appointments for the week. More buyers, more sellers. And that's payday right there. That's, you know, that's where I make my money, is on the phone. We hate the phone. I hate the phone. I hate making calls. To this day, I hate making calls, you know, but I just know that's what I got to be doing. And I block it out of my schedule. My point being, run your business. Most people tend to let the business run them. So I get a call coming in and I just fly out by the seat of my pants and go show homes, you know, and next thing you know, and it's really easy to do that in this business. You know, you got to have those times blocked out to call the leads that are coming in. You know, I had that early on, where all of a sudden you have that 1 month, you got 3 or 4 or 5 closings, and then, wow, it's a big month. But then you have no closings for the next 4 months because you weren't blocking out, prioritizing, making those calls for the future business.
Right.
You know, and I think a lot of new agents have to go through that learning curve. You know, I had that as well. It's feast and famine. Whereas if you're just, blocking out that time, making those calls like every day as much as you can, being on top of that, keeping that blocked in your schedule, you always have business. You always have deals you're working over time. So
one of the things to add to that is if you are wanting to learn something new, for example, Jeff does a great training on how to create a link through your local MLS and send it out through KV Core to all of your people. It's crazy how simple the process is. He's got a video on it. It's phenomenal. Some of you are like, I need to learn this. I keep going up and finding this problem. I need to learn it. One of the things that people that know they need to learn anything is they schedule about 30 minutes a day for learning. It's in every day, and it's the time where they literally take off their production hat and they go into their education hat. And for some of you, you won't do that 5 days a week, but you'll do it 3 days a week. And if you're not getting all the business you can get, then that may be something you should prioritize. Now, how does that fit into an ABCD board the way I was explaining it? It doesn't. When I was explaining ABCD before, it's with people and buyers and listings and transactions, which means if you, like Brian said, sometimes you just don't get to it. Brian, if you remember what I said at the very beginning, the goal isn't to do the work. The goal is at the end of the day to say, I have succeeded. I've moved people from C to B, B to A, and I've educated myself so I'm better tomorrow. Okay? And if you're a good real estate agent, you're always going to have business that you couldn't get to today. Always. That's why we can work 24 hours a day and never catch up. Okay? So if you don't have leads coming in that you can't get to, you're not doing it well enough. Okay? So I want you to understand you're supposed to go to bed with stuff still not done. It's part of what we do in order to function, but we gotta, in our brain, say, I've succeeded today, I'll take care of tomorrow.
Yeah.
By the way, the other thing I didn't want to miss, that 25-minute piece, a lot of you guys, if you look at what you have to do during the day, at the beginning of the day, you're gonna find time slots to put some of your lower priorities in that you still need to get done. And if you've never tried doing that, just try it once and then go, oh, that's what he meant.
Yeah, definitely. That's good. Let me ask you, Robert, can you unmute yourself? There you go. What thoughts do you have? Just not to pick on anybody, but just, any thoughts out of what Eric's talking about, myself, Brian, what thoughts are going through your head with all this?
Yeah, well, I really like, fitting in the smaller things in between the bigger things. I always used to call it, your big rocks. You kind of need to figure out those high priority things, schedule those in your day, those things that you need to get done to push the transaction forward. And then all those other things that do need to happen in the day that might not be as big of a priority kind of fall in between those big rocks. So, if you're trying to fill up a container, big rocks going first, all the small things kind of fit in between. So again, kind of figuring out, okay, how am I going to push these transactions farther, working on those as a priority first. And then obviously all the systems and those other things kind of fall in between. Just a small example, I have a listing where I have to meet the inspector out at the property today. And, I could just sit there and chit chat with the inspector for an hour and a half, but instead I'm going to have some tasks that I'm going to be working on while I'm there to maximize that time. So
that's awesome.
I just posted in the chat box a 4-minute, I think, video, or it could be a little longer, but it's on law of the big rocks. You mentioned rocks. This video gives you, we all saw this a year ago in January from Ryan, gives you how to prioritize things in your life. I got to jump off for 10:30. I'm going to tell everybody this, and I believe this from the bottom of my heart. Until you can learn how to set your priorities, you're never going to accomplish the things you want to accomplish in your life. I wrote a book a number of years ago. In that book, it talks about, at one point, I interviewed a number of billionaires, millionaires and billionaires, and asked them the question, hey, or it was interviewed, and they said, if you could write the secret of success, business-wise, on the back of a postage stamp, it has to fit in the back of a postage stamp, what would you do? And here's what they wrote. The number one thing is this: make a list, prioritize the list, do the list. And I know every one of us hear this over and over and over, but I'm going to guarantee you that yesterday, most of us didn't do the priorities. We didn't do the big rocks. We didn't go rocks, pebbles, sand, water. If you learn to do rocks, I'll leave you with this. Relationships. You want to keep relationships, and I don't necessarily mean intimate, but those count. If you will prioritize those just for a short bit every day, and you do one thing just to make sure that connection is there, it isn't a big thing, but it is a big rock because it's something you need to continue to nurture. Jeff?
Cool. No, that's awesome. Thank you. Very cool. I think that whole idea, like going back to, like me scheduling those Saturday mornings. I mean, again, if that makes sense, I hope that makes sense to everybody, but I blocked out that time because it was the time to reach the most people. So from 9:30 to noon, I just had it on my schedule every Saturday. The only time I changed it, and I had to learn this lesson, I had to change it when I would get out-of-state clients coming in. They're here for the weekend. They become the priority because I know they're on limited time. I did that one time with people coming in, and I went over to the hotel to pick them up at 12:30, and they weren't there. And of course, they were out with another realtor looking at homes because they felt like, geez, like we're only here for the weekend. And so again, live and learn. It happened one time, and I just learned not to do that again. But otherwise, like people here local, especially like, whatever, we can go look at homes at 12:30. We're fine if we're not out there at 10 o'clock. They can wait 2 hours, and they don't need to know that I'm already booked. My appointment is with me and my phone because that's the priority. And that's where I make the money, is being on the phone, making those calls to set setting all these appointments, more buyer appointments, more listing appointments for that following week. That's where I made my money. And that's where I ended up, again, when I built the team, because buyers, that's why I stopped working with buyers like after my first year, pretty much. I mean, I would work here and there. I mean, it would happen, but for the most part, I took over doing the listings. And I brought on buyer agents to work with me because, again, I could make so much more money. Like to me, it's like, the 3 hours a day for, 5 and 6 days before they find a house. And then the inspection, like the time consuming part of working with a buyer for me was so much time away from my phone. And that's where I made my money, setting more appointments for more buyers to meet with. So I'd send my buyer agents out to meet with the buyers, whatever. I primarily focused on the listings because, I'm in and out of there within a couple hours and, have somebody taking the pictures, I get it on the MLS. And now I'm just negotiating the price down and that kind of stuff. It pays the same, whatever. I can make way more money doing the listings and focus on the listings than working with the buyers myself. Now, again, there's buyer agents. And if that's that's great. If that's your focus. But that's how I was able to do it. But that priority, running the business instead of letting the business run you, which is what most realtors do. And that gets frustrating after a while. Oh, it's so frustrating after a while. You just feel like you're flying all over the place, whatever. Stop them cooking dinner because you got to go. They just called you half an hour ago and they want to go see a home at 6. It's like, like we just run all over the place and it becomes so unprofessional, Shaune, do you have any thoughts on that? Because I know you've been around for a long time. What we're saying here, does that make sense? I know you've had to learn how to do that. You were a broker owner for a while. What thoughts do you have flowing through your head there?
Yeah, I've always got thoughts, things like this. I'll share a little bit of, I think we're talking about making more money with less effort. Is that kind of one of the things?
Also, kind of prioritizing things. I know you missed the first part. We were just talking about here's this big list of things we all have to do every day. And how do you prioritize that in terms of I think, the money-making activities down to the stuff, kind of working our way down through that to where.
I might shake it up a little bit, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
I have kind of a mindset on the way I think about things. Some of the things that I do are not duplicatable, just like we all have skills and things we're good at. I don't teach those things, right? The things I teach are things about becoming more efficient. I heard you talking about you can reach a point where you're selling enough real estate, you don't need to work with the buyers. That's what all people work towards, right? Eventually, we want to be the listing agent, and then we have kind of a little bit more control of the operation. We're doing things that we're solving challenges and problems. We're being a part of the solution on getting more and more closings done. And it's less driving around and doing things that don't pay much, right? It's about making more money per hour, the things that we do, right?
Right.
I kind of have an overview of the way people think about going forward and and just their career in real estate, right? We want to start with capping, and then we move to Icon. And then after Icon, we start building a brand and a team. Exactly what you're talking about. I always like to start with things they can control, right? Things that are easy, efficient. I always want to make sure I have a good team in place. And the team doesn't necessarily have to be agents I work with. It could be your transaction coordinator. It could be your lender, your inspector, title company you work with, and then teammates that you work with, as well as who can you call when you have problems. If you can cover all those things, everything that comes up, you can resolve and move forward to be efficient. It's real important to me who I partner with. And I tell people, and I speak it into them, that if you work with somebody on my team, they are going to get it done. They have a lot riding on it, one, because I do generally provide a lot of work for them. But the other thing is, I know what they can do and what we can do to move it forward. If you don't have the right people on your team, you're going to do a lot of extra work, and you don't make as much money. I always tease Eric, because I mentioned this to him years ago. I thought about, as a real estate agent, how do I make money? I don't make money doing a lot of non-valuable things that other people could do, so I can focus on the things that do make money. It's showing houses, it's going to listing presentations, and doing all the negotiation. That's what we're paid the most money per hour to do. Outside of that, you can generally find things you can source out in some sense. I always think that's a real efficient way. For me, I'll go back to answer your question. These are just some thoughts that I had, and I'm going to probably share some of these same thoughts at my meeting after this one. Is prioritizing your business. I think it's incredibly effective. If you want to be successful, you measure what you treasure, right? Or treasure what you measure. And if I wanted to move more houses, I would have to make more phone calls. If I wanted to attract more people, you have to time block and schedule those times to be most effective. And I like it. You can turn your phone off and turn your emails off for specific periods of time. If you really want to hit that goal and be successful at it, you put it on the wall. I'm calling 10 people a week, 20 people a week in attraction. I'm making 20, 30 cold calls on transaction. And then you just time block those things, then you can be really, really efficient at it. So that's probably my feedback on time blocking and things like that. I'm not a good example of it. I leave a pretty open calendar Wednesday through Friday because I'm constantly interviewing opportunities. Mm-hmm. That's what you really want to be. You want to be a source of people coming to you with things. And then I can sort it out pretty fast now. When people give me their pitch, I know that it's either going to be something that's good, I'm going to be a good fit for them, or I'm not. And the ones that are good fit, I give them progression, and we look at moving things forward. But I usually can sniff it out pretty quick on what's going to be a good fit. That's like where you want to be, right? And the goal for all of us, no matter what, is to be where Jeff is talking about, being the listing agent and the one that controls the volume and the flow. The goal for all of us, and this is where I teach people to move towards, right? So you start with capping, Icon, building a team, being a lead lane maker, and then eventually you should be a 100% referral-based business. That means you can decide who you work with, you can decide when you work. And you're in a business where everybody tells you what to do and how to do things because you're at their mercy. The goal is to be on a 100% referral base. You get to decide who you work with and when you work. It's the most freeing thing. It's what all network marketing people want to get to, right? I mean, in that sense, it's the same thing here in real estate. You can do it in real estate. I don't work weekends or evenings. And I don't know if that makes any sense to anyone on this call, but I haven't worked weekend and evenings in a long time. I do make some exceptions here and there, but for the most part, I have agents that show homes, and then I do what I'm good at, which is I close transactions, right? That's what you want to be good. You want to be good at closing transactions. You become good at that, everything else becomes a whole lot easier. So that's my thought.
Oh, that's awesome. Really good stuff. Nicole, can you unmute yourself? Because you're a newer agent, right?
Yes, that's correct.
How long have you been licensed?
A year and 5 months now.
Okay. What thoughts do you have as you're listening to all this stuff? Because again, it can be so overwhelming, especially as a newer agent. What for any of us? But it's like, oh my gosh, later it's like, there's an elephant in front of me. One bite at a time. That's how you got to do it. But what thoughts do you have?
That's what I've been doing pretty much the whole time. To be pretty much one bite at a time. I like what Shaune said about his work ethic for the evenings and the weekends being off, because that's what I'm also trying to achieve as as I'm studying for my other license in Nevada right now. I want to achieve that as a dual agent. That might be a very tough shot, but I think it'll work. I just have to probably ask some more pointers from Shaune, because he's a very...
Let me ask Shaune something real quick. Shaune, when did you get to that point? I mean, go back to how long you've been in the business, Shaune?
That's what I was going to ask, actually.
Shaune, how long you been in the business?
So I'll try to give a little quick history. And I got to have one point, and this is way back when I got my license. This is back in 2005. I was in class, I was studying, and you teach you a bunch of things to pass tests, right? That's what we do.
Right.
But man, I heard the teacher say one thing, and it always stuck with me. And it was because I realized that you're in a business where people kind of like tell you what they need, and you kind of have to do whatever they say in a sense. She said, you do have control of your time, and you can tell them when the time is available. So if you want to be completely open and show them 24/7 at any drop of the hat, then that's the business that you create and set. If I said, we are looking at homes tomorrow, 3 to 5, here's the 3 that we're going to go look at, we're going to make offers. That's projection of where we're going and how we're going to solve a problem. And that's the opportunity we're going to go and when we're going to go. If people are motivated to buy homes, they're going to be at those showings. I don't have to wait and say, hey, when can you go? Oh, great. Next hour. Okay, well, you can't run your life that way, right? So that was one tip that I learned way back when I got my license. I just never forgot it. I was like, because I had to. I was working full time. I was vice president of human resources for a company here in South Lake. And, I was handling employee issues and stuff like that. We had a home building company at my company, and I offered them, I said, look, they were $1 million homes. I said, I'll tell you what, I'll get, if you'll pay for my license, I'll stay on. It took 2 years to get a broker license. This way back in 2004. I'll stay on, get my broker's license. I'll open my own brand. You cover the cost of all my education, all the cost of my branding, then I'll list your houses for free. Because they knew I was good at like talking and working and selling. So he said, sure, let's do it. What do I got to lose? This is only going to cost him, $1,000 a year. And he got his own inside salesperson that saves him, $20,000, $30,000 every house we sell. It was an easy investment for him. And for me, it allowed me to have someone that platformed me a business. So I started that. I effectively opened True West around 2007. And, for me, I don't want to call it part-time, never consider it that, right? It's just it's an opportunity to make a closing and a transaction. Whenever that opportunity comes, you make the transaction. Always have the mindset, if you want to control your schedule, never be the one that holds back a sell. If you can hold that and be confident about that, then you can set and determine your own time, right? If I said, if I knew we had a deadline, we couldn't make the showing, whatever, I'm going to email or call that listing agent and say, hey, I'm making an offer. It's going to be this. I want you to give me a chance to get this in. And then I will get that opportunity for my buyer to get in at some point. But you don't be the reason you can't close a transaction. And you'll find yourself being a whole lot more successful than being that nervousness, like, well, I can't show them at night. I can't make the offer. You get all worked up about stuff like that. Just know that you can always prevent yourself from being the obstacle. I was selling houses. I'd sell to friends. I self-taught myself real estate, just to be perfectly honest. That's why some things that I do may not be duplicatable, and I don't train those things. But I was selling my friends' houses, and I would stick signs in yards and copy how everybody else was doing it. I didn't work for KW. I didn't work for Coldwell Banker. I worked for myself. I had True West Realty. I opened it, and then I started adding agents, and I started guessing at how do I do splits. I mean, I didn't know how to do any of this. And I was like, let's try 70-30. That sounds pretty good. You keep 70%. I'll take 30% for my liability and my education, teaching you the things that I don't even know yet, but I'm going to teach you something. It was just kind of an experiment for me. And, I'm one of these guys that's really unemployable. I get fired from every job I ever work. I've gotten fired from Papa John's Pizza, right? I've gotten fired from Coram Deo. It's a private school here. North Texas fired me. I mean, I've been fired from even that HR job. They fired me. So I knew that for me, I'm not an employable person, but man, I'm a darn good entrepreneur. And I have vision and I see things and I know how to bring things together and solve problems. Shaune's a good example, right? He came to me and said, hey, I want to buy a house and have some equity when I'm done with it. And I said, sure, I'll put a plan together, right? He's got freaking 1,500 agents and he asked me to help him. We solved the problem. He lives in a beautiful home. He's in the study of the home that we did for him. But I saw what he wanted and I told him how I can get him there. And we made an offer. We did it. Now he's got tons of equity and he's been there a couple of years. Those things are just something that I'm a born entrepreneur. I don't know what else to say about it. And I just think of ways to solve problems. But then I like to say things in layman's terms that people can really understand and relate and make sense, things real simple, right? That's why I said, if you're going to make money in real estate, you can go, show houses, you can go write your own offers, you can do the transactional stuff on the back end, you can go and scrub databases. I mean, you can do all those things, but you'll find that your highest dollar an income per hour is made negotiating contracts, showing buyers homes and then doing listing presentations. You make more money per hour doing that than anything else. I kept growing, kept adding. I tried lead sources. I know I could probably ramble on about a lot of the things that I experimented and did. Did I answer your question, Nicole? I know it's kind of up in the air.
Yes, you did answer my question perfectly. I think what you're saying in summary is be more transparent with your clients. Is that what you're exactly saying? Like just know your boundaries, I guess? Or
I like to give them, here's an easy tip. If you can remember this, when you're communicating with a seller or a buyer, one of the things that most agents do not offer is the next step. If you could always have a next step, then you have an order of process on how we're going to solve the problem, right? So the next step is we're going to go look at some houses and we're going to make some offers. That's going to be our plan. Or if we're listing the house, hey, we're going to go a couple of weeks, we're going to list it, we're going to do open houses, we're going to get promotional things. If the price and the condition are good, then we will get multiple offers. If we do not get multiple offers in the first 2 weeks, then we need to make some adjustments. Either we change the condition or we change the price. That's the only two things we can directly relate and connect with. And then that's a plan of action, how we move forward. That's all you got to do. Do next step. Next step is this. This is what we're going to do. And buyers and sellers, you don't want to be the guy they call. Hey, what are we doing? Where are we at? What's going on? You want to always have, here's the next step. Here's the next step. I gave you the next step. The next step is this. And then that way they have some confidence that we're moving forward together and we have a plan of action. Because this is a big deal, right? If I'm not buying houses and selling houses every day, which most people are not, this is how we add tremendous value to them, as we give them a next step. And if you don't know what the next step is, Nicole, because you're new, ask your mentor. Just say, hey, I'm meeting with my buyers. What do I tell them? Where am I going? What are we doing? Get some direction from someone that can give you some next step options. So that way you have a direction that we're going. Don't just blindly start showing houses and not have an objective or a realistic expectation of what we're looking at and what realistic chance we have of winning. We need to discuss those things, right? We don't need practice showing houses. We need practice winning houses, right?
Yeah, I think having a mentor might help, like set up my schedule, like you said, like when you have evenings and weekends off. I think that might be helpful. But yeah, I did learn a lot from you.
And I think at the beginning, Nicole, I don't know, Shaune, maybe it was different for you, Shaune. I know for me at the beginning, my first couple of years, there was a lot of out of balance. It just was. It was and again, I'm married, 2 daughters. They were 6 and 3 when I got licensed. I wanted her to be home with the kids. She wasn't licensed yet. It was all on me, 100% commission. So it's do or die time. It was out of balance at times. I remember we blocked out Wednesday nights. That's going to be family night. We're doing different things. We did like a family Devo and we do different things and watch movies, whatever. But, Saturdays, Sundays, there was a lot of out of balance at the beginning to just get the business going. Once it got going and once I learned how to do it and how to start building a team and different things, then, and I think too, I didn't start building a team. It was my year 4 for me. My 3rd year, I did 72 deals, by myself, no assistant, no transaction coordinator, nothing. It was stupid. It was just, I learned from it. It was completely out of whack. Made a ton of money with it, but then we hired an assistant, best thing I ever did, And one of the things I learned from, again, through Craig Proctor, talked about this, like, if you start figuring out like what you're worth per hour, and then you start realizing like, there's some certain things that I can delegate out here. That would not, because it's like for me to stuff envelopes to send out a newsletter when if I break down, here's how much money I made whatever, last year, here's how many hours a week I work. You divide that out and you figure out, okay, you're worth, $200 an hour. Why? I would never pay somebody $200 an hour to stuff envelopes for a newsletter. I can delegate that out, and I can't change the outcome of that. If you can change the outcome, that's your job. If you can't change the outcome of something, then that's something to delegate out. I remember Craig Proctor talking about that one time, Brian Moses, who's actually now in EXP, and he was one of, kind of Craig's right-hand guy. And Craig always told the story at his conferences, how he called Brian one time. It's on a Saturday and Brian's out mowing his yard. Brian, what are you mowing your yard for? Like Saturday, that's family day. Let's go play with the kids, take your boys, get out there, go throw the football around, get to the park, go to the beach, whatever, that kind of stuff. And Brian was like, he's mowing his yard. Like Craig was like, Brian, for $30 an hour, you could hire a couple neighborhood kids to come over and mow your yard. Like, you're worth more than $30 an hour. You're worth $400 an hour. Would you pay a neighborhood kid $400 an hour to take that out? No, like, hire that out, and take that time. So, I mean, things to think about with that in terms of just, eventually you get to that point, Nicole, if you're building it right. And again, depending on what you want to do with your business, everybody's going to have different goals, but I wanted to get to that point where I had a business, and I'm kind of the rainmaker of the business. That was what I wanted to do. And so that's what I eventually got to that point of doing, and building a team and everything else. And, was able to then start getting more balance. But the first couple of years, that was way out of balance. It just was, and that might not be the case for everybody, but it was all falling on me. So, and then just learning how to do it. My goodness, the first time I listed, I put the sign in front of the wrong house. Like, there's a story for you. They come out the next morning. Who's doing? That's a true story. But anyway, so Tim, what thoughts? Do you have any thoughts on this? I know you jumped in late. Obviously, kind of fill in what we're doing here, talking about priorities and schedules and everything. You've been around a long time. Any thoughts you have that just come out?
Yeah, I'm going to simplify it, and hopefully this wasn't said. And I apologize for being late. I was
you're good.
Agent attraction Zoom that went long.
Sure.
9 words. Write them down. If you don't have an assistant, comma, you are one.
Yep. That's good right there.
Do 3 things. Hire an assistant. Give him or her all of the non-selling tasks that you're currently doing. That's the second one. Hire an assistant. Give them all the non-selling tasks. And the third thing is, with all the time you freed up, do additional selling tasks yourself. You will double your business in 12 months. I guarantee it.
Yep. Absolutely.
I was going to second something, Tim, for new people. It's exactly, I mean, I preach that all the time. You can outsource VA work for ridiculously inexpensive, right? So Nicole, you're new, maybe you do a lot of these things initially, but at some point you get a couple of transactions going. You can outsource. This is for anyone on there for, $50, $100 a week, and you can knock out 4 or 5 hours worth of non-essential work. Incredibly inexpensive. I've had a VA off and on for years, and I've got one. She only works, I don't know what I've got her, 20 hours a week, and I'm closing 2 to 3 houses a week. And I'm not showing houses. I'm not going to listing presentations. I mean, I'm a referral only business though, right? So I've got a team of about 18 agents that I pass out leads and I create opportunities for them. But that back end work that they do makes me incredibly efficient. I think Tim's exactly right. For sure.
What's that? There's a company out there. I'm just trying to look it up here. But when you mentioned the assistant, like it's Rocket. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I went to a conference. I did the 1, 2, 3, or whatever. I did the one that one of the speakers offered, and I've stayed with them. It wouldn't be the most cost effective way, and they don't just do real estate, but they offer. And the girl that does work for me is great. She's very good. So I've stayed with them all this time, and I tell you, you grow a team, you can actually start dividing her out to everybody else. I mean, they want work and they want job security. So yeah. FYI, I mean, you can really get.
Well, no, there was a conference last week. Sphere Rocket is the name of the company, and I know Kathy Carter, who most of us know. She actually hired a virtual assistant, $4 an hour through Sphere Rocket. you know, and she's doing great stuff with her. I mean, I was on a Zoom with her the other day. We were going over a couple of things with her assistant on there as well, and just getting her set up with some different things. You got to train them, you got to do all that stuff. But for $4 an hour, you know, she's getting a salary somehow through Sphere Rocket, but then that's how much it costs, you know, you. So yeah, just things to look at. I've never had a virtual assistant before, but you know, it's a whole new world now with that. But Tim, how long had you been in the business before you hired an assistant? Do you remember? Was that early on, or was it like you were a few years into it, or?
Yeah, it was either my third or fourth year.
Yeah, for me it was year 4. You know,
I'm sorry.
It was year 4 for me. I mean,
yeah,
you know,
it's about right.
Yeah, I remember my wife. Go ahead.
I hit a $4 or $5 million ceiling on what I could manage effectively myself and have a life, and that's when I hired an assistant. The very next year, I did $9 or $10 million. Yeah. But I got all that non-income producing activities off my plate.
Yeah. That's why it's funny.
It was scary. It was scary as hell.
Oh, I hear you. No, I remember my wife ran the ad without me knowing it, you know, whatever. And I remember I panicked. I'm like, oh my God, you did what? No, like, and just trying to think that through, but it was the best thing we ever did. I mean, my assistant, you know, I don't have her anymore, but she was with me for, I don't know, 9-10 years. I mean, and exactly that stuff. I mean, that's why I set up my, a lot of people ask me my Gmail account. I used to have this, it was just jamorell@gmail.com. And then when I hired my assistant, it's now jamorell2do@gmail.com, because she would send me all the things that I needed to do. She took care of everything else. That's why I have that account now, you know, and I've just kept that ever since. But that's what she would do, just even weeding through all those emails, because there's so many emails that I just didn't need to deal with. And she could go down through all those, delete, and wait, this one needs to go to Jeff. This one I can handle. She'd reply back to different things. And she just got really good at that kind of stuff. And, you know, the mailings, we used to do a lot of mailings, all those leads that would come in, and she'd send them stuff and get them set up with different things. We just taught her what to do. She was awesome. But, you know, man, that freed me up so much.
Yeah, listening to all this, I did it all myself. I was the transaction coordinator. Like I had a company, right? So True West, I would do all their transactions. You know, I did it very manual. I didn't have classes and things like this that you guys are sharing. I would write transactions. I would do it in the middle of the night too, you know, write offers for my agents, and then I would handle all their back office stuff. As soon as I hired that transaction coordinator, that's when everything just like, wow.
Yeah.
Now I can do volume. I can spend less time doing real estate that's not relevant. And it was transformative for me. I mean, you know, I thought about it. I wanted to create a transaction coordinator. This is way back. And I even created like the Google sheet online. People would fill out a form, they'd send it to me, and then I'd fill out the transaction based on what I collected from them. And I used to simplify everything to exactly what we needed to do to write an offer from a buyer standpoint, all the different options that we would consider, and then they could make their own if they wanted to. But I gave them easy ways to fill out offers, and then I would submit them. Gosh, it wasn't, I didn't get paid much for it, but it was an offer service that I would do. And after I trained others to do that, yeah, it's been light and day. I mean, my admin, Jenny, is the best kind of transaction coordinator I've been in Texas. Yeah. You know, she handles anything and everything that she used to do all my team. And then she set her own boundaries and said, no more writing offers for agents that are not Shaune. So now she only does things specifically for me and won't help anyone else anymore. But I give her plenty of other things to do. So yeah. Thanks.
No, for sure. It's awesome. Well, good. You know, priorities, and, you know, started out with that. I think that's just key, you know, and just, again, look at that list, A, B, C, D, you know, whatever, or 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever you got to do to prioritize things, but then just really, you know, the money making activities, I mean, just, you know, to give those the focus, you know, whatever. And yeah, how you set your day up, but you can't go to bed at night feeling like you really got through something, you really accomplished some good stuff, you know, because it's really easy just to fly through this business, and every day where it's just chaotic, and life is chaotic, and it just feels chaotic. You go to bed feeling chaotic, you know, it's just, you don't sleep good because it's all this kind of stuff that's not getting done that should have got done, and everything else, you know. So anyway, any last thoughts? Anybody want to jump in at all? We'll wrap it up otherwise.
I think this was really helpful. Thank you, Jeff, Tim, and thank you, Shaune. This really gave me a bigger perspective on everything. But. For sure. No, it's good stuff. And Robert, I appreciate what you shared, you know, and reminded me of that. I've seen that video that Eric shared, you know, the rocks. It's so key, you know, that idea. Brian, thanks for sharing.
We'll be back next week, guys, next Tuesday. Okay, so we got more people lined up. Elizabeth Riley's going to be training. She's the one that actually showed Gene Frederick EXP. So she's going to be on here doing some training. We got some other people lined up. So anyway, we'll keep moving forward. But guys, be watching, your email, your text. Just a reminder what Eric said, we will be transitioning, everybody into a Freedom Team page, a group in workplace. That's coming probably this week and next week. We're going to be doing all that. We'll be kind of phasing out the Facebook group Freedom Team. We'll keep it there for a while, but we're going to be moving everything over to that workplace group. Okay. So we can all just communicate in there. Agent interaction training Thursday morning. It's the different Zoom link. It's the one we've always used for that. But that's going on Thursday if you are interested in that. And we'll be back here next Tuesday at the same time. So guys, thank you very much. Call us, reach out to us anytime. We're here to help everybody. Okay. Let us know what we can do. Cool. Guys, have a great week. Have a good day.
Great job, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you. Have a great day.